Welcome to C3 In This Together, 30 minutes in our own voice, a suicide awareness series. In honor of September being Suicide Awareness Month, we will hear from someone with a lived experience who's coping, managing, and navigating mental health and suicide. My hope is that together, we will be the generation that ends the silence, the shame, and the stigma of mental health and suicide. Today, I am so honored to have my guest, an amazing woman with an amazing story. Her name is Michelle Cope, and we're so grateful that Michelle will be joining us. She is the founder and CEO at the Yellow Elephant. Wow, already I see your ears kind of sticking up and your eyes are locked in for this. Yes, she is the founder and CEO at the Yellow Elephant. The Yellow Elephant is an organization that is focused on mental health awareness and suicide. So Michelle, we are so glad that you're with us. Welcome, and feel free to tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then also go ahead and tell us your story and the work that you're doing that surrounds suicide awareness.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me first. And my name is Michelle Cope. I am 41 out of Moultrie, Georgia, which is down close to Florida. I'm closer to Florida's capital more so than Atlanta. But I've lived here on and off my life since 1989. I lived in Statesboro for 16 years. That's where my daughter was born. I'm a single mom of a 10-year-old little girl named Maisie, who is keep going. She is I am blessed to have her. So, and then I also am not only the founder and CEO of Yellow Elephant Ministries, which was founded in memory of my friend Christina that died by suicide in 2012. I'm contracting right now with Hearts for Families with their suicide prevention. So I never thought I'd be doing this full time, but God did. So that's where we're at. I started this ministry in memory of my friend that died by suicide, and she died in 2012. And that is where I never again thought that it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. She was the closest person that I ever had lose, other than a grandparent, which, you never think you're going to lose your best friend in your 30s. Somebody that's helped you day in and day out with your child. And it was like losing a sibling. I don't have any sisters, but she was like a sister. And she struggled with anxiety and agoraphobia. And I was recently, before she passed away, diagnosed with PTSD. So we fed off each other with our, anxieties and dealing with. So we talked with each other a lot, but that wasn't enough for what happened and transpired in 2012.
Wow.
And so if you want, I can go further in detail what happened, or I can, it's every day, every time I tell the story, it never gets easier. But I share different parts of it, of what is meant to be. She was a very loving person. She loved to give hugs, but she, again, was battling. She battled. And on May 5th, 2012, she seemed to be in a euphoric state. And when she wanted to hang out, I had to go to work early the next morning. She was my roommate. We just moved in because my daughter was 18 months old at this time. And so she came in late from work. I had to go in early. She wanted to see my daughter. I said, no, you can see her tomorrow. So she called her mom. Her mom came to pick her up. Her mom lived not too far from where she lived. And so the next day while I'm at work, she told me she loved me. When she left, she said, I love you. And I said, I'll see you tomorrow. Well, her brother called at 2:00 the next day. at my work. They pulled me off the floor. I was working at a jewelry store at this time. They pulled me off the floor, and her brother's like, she did it. And I knew exactly what he meant when she did it, because she had attempted twice before in the 2 years previous. And so I can't explain. I was numb the rest of that day and the next months. And it, you know, her family, of course, it was devastating. Her friends, everybody. I remember going to her job right after, it was our job or her job, right after we found out the news, and nobody there knew. They weren't going to tell anybody until after the shift. So it was one of those feelings that I never want to have again, because it was, so that was just a precursor of what happened. And then the next few years, a journey of mine where I was dealing with grief. I had recently had a breakup a year before. My daughter's dad, I was dealing with that. I was dealing with finding who I was, dealing with her death. So I eventually moved home to Moultrie, Georgia from Statesboro. And I never knew what this journey was going to start. And I started working, and I had just recently lost a job. And that Friday before, the vision that came to me at Walmart parking lot, and I was sitting in Walmart parking lot, and it was a Tuesday in October in 2015, and I sat there, and I was just thinking about my friend Christina and her love for elephants, and that not many people knew about her love for elephants, and so therefore I was like addressing the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And that is where sorry, I have a little dog that's in here. Apologize about that.
Right.
She's but with that being said, I was just thinking about her and her love for elephants that not many people knew about. And I was just like, oh my gosh, elephant in the room. Everybody knows it's there, but doesn't address it, doesn't give it the love. And and anyway, I apologize. I do. But so I heard God's voice speaking, saying, you know, that talent you had that you said was boring, I need you to go home and use it. So what he was talking about was drawing. So I went home and I drew the elephant. It's packed up somewhere still. And I went home and I drew for the first time in 20 years. I had not drawn in 20 years. So I drew the elephant, and I knew from that day that I wanted it to be a decal. And I saw I had the semicolon tusk, which I have an elephant on the back of my phone. I don't know if you can see it a little bit. There it is. So, but it has a semicolon tusk, which means your story's not over yet. Yes. And that was from the beginning. And I had 2 on there, so because we have more than one pause. And that was why it was so effective. I just remember the semicolon project, and I think that's why it stood out for me, and why to have that on there. So in the next coming weeks, I'm looking for a job, and because like I said, I was in between jobs, and lo and behold, I ended up at a job that makes decals. And wouldn't you know, that was another God-given, that's what I want, is a decal to put in place. When you see it, you start that conversation. As simple as that. And so started working there. It originally was a red elephant, and I really prayed and said, God, please give me a different color, because I didn't want it to be lost in the political jargon, a red elephant. I mean, automatically I didn't want it to lose its value. So I prayed for another color. God gave me yellow. So I used to go around and say, hey, and when it first came out, I was tell people, say, I would go around and say, hey, when you're at a stoplight, when it stops, you stop. With a red light, you stop. At a yellow, a green light, you go. But yellow, you hesitate. You go around your surroundings. You see, you kind of hesitate. You don't go through that yellow light. Sometimes you're a little bit slower. Sometimes you speed on through, but you But then I prayed. I was like, God, that's such a long understanding. I wanted something simpler. So I prayed and I said, God, give me a simpler reason, So I opened my Bible to John 1:5, and it was the light shines in the darkness, but the darkness hasn't overcome it. And I've never read that verse before until that moment. I was like, okay, so he gave me his reason. And so a couple weeks later, I go to a NAMI Moultrie meeting, presented it, the elephant. It was the first place I presented the elephant was NAMI Moultrie. And I remember one of the board members said, the color yellow is the international color for suicide prevention or awareness.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, God, let me lead on my own understanding. Then let me lead on to what his version was, and then the worldly. So it's got that world. So it's yellow because it's a light in the darkness.
Yes. Wow.
So it's an elephant because so many reasons it's evolved why it's an elephant over the years. It's because elephants have good memories. A group of elephants is called a memory of elephants. And also just because you address your elephant in the room. And the most recent one that we've used is the memory of elephants. We have a memorial page. We do a lot of post-pension work where we do the decal. We'll have a memorial decal for those that have lost somebody to suicide. And we'll walk with the families through that. Wow. So that page on our website is called Memory of Elephants. And it's funny. It's funny and great how God's just been working through, before we became a 501c3, I had another moment. I was on a way to a funeral of a young man that died by suicide. This was back in 2018. And a week before, I had posted on Twitter to the person that created the show, A Million Little Things, which is about 4 friends that lost somebody to suicide, those 4 friends, and one of them died by suicide. And I had said, hey, it'd be awesome to send you a decal. And the day of the funeral, I'm at the gas station. I get a little ding on my phone, and the creator of the show responded to my tweet, said, the only thing stopping you is you in the post office. Wow. So I was like, that's a challenge. Yes, when I got home that next week, I went and tried to find the way to message him, and I couldn't. So I was like, oh goodness. But I went on Instagram and I saw one of the stars of the show was on there. So I just sent her a message and showed her a screenshot of what the creator said and a little bit about the elephant. And she didn't respond, but one of her co-stars started following the Instagram, liked it, and even commented. So I sent her the exact same thing I sent the other co-star. And she said, send them to this address by February 1st. So I sent them, and they posted, once they got them, half the cast over the next month, posted pictures with them with the elephant. So that was me. That was God saying, hey, I can make this big and make this awareness happen. But if you don't get your ducks in a row, it's not. So that year we became an official 501c3 in 2019 after sitting on it for 4 years of just being a nonprofit in memory of my friend.
Wow, so. Thank you. Wow, Michelle, thank you so much. What an amazing story of hope, of light, of life, of God speaking to you, and just a story that I know is bringing such meaning to so many who will be watching this series. But again, thank you for sharing your story and the story of your friend. We certainly honor her memory as well. And we know that her memory lives on. And then again, so many people are going to be inspired by this, blessed by this. So many people will receive hope as we address the elephant in the room. Wow, I just so love this. I love the semicolon where you talk about our story is not over. And I just feel like in this moment that I want to speak that to someone who's watching for themselves or for a loved one, that the story is certainly not over. But let me ask you this for our next question. What would you say to someone or a loved one who has been impacted by suicide, maybe a survivor, or maybe someone who themselves may be managing suicidal ideations? What would you say to them?
Well, one of the first things is letting them know they're not alone
Yeah.
and that it is okay to talk about it. It's okay to share and reach out for help. Like I know that there's that saying, it's okay to be not okay,
Yes.
but it's also okay to get help. And they don't say, I think that needs to be added. It's okay to reach out and get help. And and a lot of people don't. They feel that there's still that stigma because they feel like that they may be crazy, or so it's just to let them know that even if there's a text line that is free. It's a 741-741 number that they can reach out to that. And I would just tell them that they're not alone, and I would show them some resources and just listen was what I would do. I would actually listen more so than say anything, because that's one thing that we fail to do is a lot of people is we just don't listen. We want to tell ourselves, but sometimes we just got to sit back and say, hey, I'm here just to listen and soak it in. And you just say what you want to say.
Wow. Thank you for that. I love that. That sometimes all we need is just for someone to listen, someone to let us know that you matter, right? You're valuable and that we want you to stay, right? So I so love that. I also love what you said about it's not okay, it's okay to not be okay, but also it's okay to get the help that you need. And we want to take this opportunity to say that to someone that is listening. Also, I think it's important that we say to those who might be watching, maybe you are a survivor of someone who's taken their life by suicide. We do know that a setting like this, even addressing the matter of suicide, can also be triggering for you as well. So we're certainly respectful of that. And we do want to remind you, if at any time throughout this series, throughout this program, you feel triggered, you feel overwhelmed, be sure to engage with those self-help skills that you use to make sure that you'll cope and you'll manage and you'll continue to be okay. Michelle, would you also tell us, what would you say to people about managing our own mental health? So you talked about the suicide awareness and suicidal ideations, but what do you want people to know about managing our own mental health?
Well, I just know to rest. That's one thing. Know to step away. When Simone Biles right there is a prime example of what to do. She knew, even though it was it was the biggest stage of the world. She she knew she wasn't right. She knew that she could not go on, and she kept herself from mental injury and physical harm because she could have injured herself. She stepped away even though she knew she was letting people down. She was letting herself up is what she was doing. And
Wow.
and that is what we got to do. I have to step away from here it's okay to step away. A lot of people feel like they have to keep on going. It's okay to turn off. And that is one big thing that I would tell somebody with their mental health. Step away, take a breather, ground yourself, write, journal, do whatever. A swimmer last month at the Olympics, he said that he journaled and everything. And then he would rip it up and after he was done, because he got out everything he needed to say, but he didn't want to rehash it. So he burned it. And that was Dressel, actually, who won 5 gold medals. And so they all understood that. And I feel a lot more people are talking about mental health and knowing this self-care. And I think last month with Simone Biles, and then you had Michael Phelps, who was one of the commentators, speak on it so much, not only just nationally, but universally, was a huge thing. So that's what I say, step back, take care of yourself, enjoy your hobbies, know when to say no, but also that's it. Take a rest. Definitely rest. And so.
Well, good. Thank you for that. What do you want people to know as we begin to wrap up our time? What do you want people to know about suicide awareness and the importance of segments like this and the work that you do? So what do you want people to know about that?
Yeah, what I want people to know that in this month, September, is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. universal. And September 10th, which is coming up, is the Suicide Prevention Day. And to wear yellow that day, because again, yellow is the international color, but also just to be kind, reach out to people. We all have different stressors. If somebody says that they're suicidal, listen to them, because they do need help. They may not act on it, but they need to be listened to. They need to get some type of help. If they do say they're suicidal, ask them, do you have a plan? Or do you plan on killing yourself? Ask those questions. There are people who are not going to become more suicidal if you say, are you suicidal? It's actually proven opposite. So it just be upfront and say, hey, I don't know. I know that you're not okay. Just ask those questions, if you know, or just check on people. If you hadn't talked to them in a little while, check on them, and teach people. There's also those apps. I want people to know about that. Text the crisis line. NAMI's got a crisis line, GCAL. Knowing those resources is what we really want to get out this month, is letting people know not only that there are resources, but how to use them, and know how to use those apps that there's out there, and just to come together is what we want to do.
Oh, thank you for that. And I love what you said, Michelle. And I think this is so important that we rehearse this and we make this clear, that if you think that someone is thinking about taking their life by suicide, it is okay to ask them, are you thinking about taking your life by suicide? And someone will say, well, if I ask that question, I'm going to push them to take their life by suicide. And it's actually the opposite. What you're doing is you're becoming that safe place for the person. You're not going to push them. The research shows that. The anecdotes shows that in talking to those who've attempted to take their life by suicide. Whenever you ask that question, again, you're not pushing them. You're not putting the ideas in their head. What you're doing is you're becoming that safe place. Well, my friend, as we begin to wrap up, how can people reach out to you? And please make sure you tell them about that amazing event that's coming up in just a little while here in September.
Yes, on September 10th, we're having an event on the square downtown Moultrie, Georgia, but it's also going to be on Facebook. It's called Be the Light Night. We're going to have 3 speakers that have either lost somebody to suicide or they've attempted and lived. They're going to share their stories. And then we're also going to have a candlelight visual right after that. We'll sing Amazing Grace, and that's in remembrance of those that have died by suicide. This will be our 4th year doing this event. Last year was completely online. The 2 other years it was on the square. This year we're going to try to do like a hybrid both, where it's both. But it's exciting because we're getting people to talk about it. And after we have the visual, we're going to have a football game. I think Public County Valdosta Packer game. Again, it's going to be shown, and it's there. This is if weather's permitting. Weather may not. Who knows? Every day in Georgia is a different day of weather, right?
Right.
So, after this Be the Light event through our town, we're having a scavenger hunt. Well, there'll be different colored elephants throughout our town that stand for different suicide risk factors, and they'll be where they'll have like a little QR code on the back, and you can go throughout the town, and you go through it'll be 20 different elephants, and once you get to the last elephant, you'll win like a little goodie bag, and that's going to be going on the rest of September. So, wow. And that starts September 11th.
Good. And where can we reach out to you? Where can we connect with you?
I was so excited about the event. You can reach out to us on theyellowelephant.org, which is our website. And then we also are on Facebook called The Yellow Elephant. That's all you have to type in on Facebook. And then on Instagram at The Yellow Elephant Movement. And then on Twitter at TYE Movement. And also YouTube. We have check-in at TYE. So that is we can be found almost everywhere, social media.
Wow, great. Michelle, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for addressing the elephant in the room, and not just addressing the elephant, but giving us the resources that we need to talk about suicide awareness and suicide prevention. Thank you for being a light. And if you don't mind me saying, thank you for being God's light to this world and sharing your story and your friend's story. We certainly appreciate you. And we're excited about that event that's coming up. And my friends, if you're in the area, make sure you're part of that. Of course, go online. We will have all of these resources where you can connect with Michelle. It will come up on the screen at some point, so you can reach out to her there again. Thank you so much again, Michelle. And my friends, we also want to let you know, if you or anyone is in crisis, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is a 24-hour crisis line. And that number will come on the screen. That's 1-800-273-8255. Again, if you know someone that's in crisis, you want to reach out to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Also, for more resources about mental health, I want to invite you personally to visit our website at c3inthistogether.com. Again, that will come on the screen. And then we also want to encourage you to take part in our 21-day Thankfulness Challenge and our NextGen Hope Challenge as well. And lastly, we introduced you to this last time, is our hope pill. I don't know if you could see that, but it's our little hope pill that we have here. And it's a daily reminder to take your dose and your medicine of hope, right? So that's on our website as well. So go ahead and grab that. Again, thank you for joining us for this series. And we look forward to seeing you next time as our series continues in C3 in This Together, a suicide awareness mental health series for the month of September. Thanks for joining us. And Michelle, we so appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do. And thanks again, my friends. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.